Time. All right, we can begin. Let's see this going right here.
What happened to his picture?
So what's the base of English over in the background, huh?
Where is he?
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Where's your picture?
Oh yeah, I'm not in any state for that.
Oh,
There
okay.
you go.
I mean, if you want, I am.
Okay. There you go. A little cloudy there, it looks like.
A little bit.
All right. Right, let's begin. So
Hi,
what are we
Adam.
learning in the mimer? Good morning, everybody. Everybody had a nice yontif? Hello.
Yep.
Hello, Yisrael.
Baruch Hashem.
Very good.
Chaim Bud hooked me up with the best Seder of the lifetime. I was pretty geschmacked.
Is the Geschmack Seder? You probably ended what, 3, 4 in the morning?
I don't know if we did all that, but definitely some good food and some good company. The community stood around me in an interesting way. It was very interesting first Pesach.
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about that Mashiach being a teacher and being a king. So the first half of the mimer was talking about Mashiach being a king, and as a king, he's gonna give us a transcendent experience of Hashem, of godliness, which is beyond our capabilities, which is gonna lift us up. And the way he said it is that we prepare for it in the time of Galus, in the time of exile, especially the end of exile we're in now. How do we prepare for it? How do we prepare? We prepare by serving Hashem with netzach, with that determination, with that victory, that we do Torah mitzvahs, regardless of anything. We just keep on doing it, which is rooted in the essence of our soul, he said. Mesiras nefesh, doing it with self-sacrifice, rooted in the essence of our soul. And because we serve Hashem in a transcendent way, meaning we serve Hashem beyond our understanding, beyond our reason. So the same thing that we merit, Mashiach comes to also have a transcendent experience of Hashem, which is beyond our understanding, beyond even our seeing godliness. That was the first half of the Maimon. And then he goes to the second half explaining that Mashiach is also going to be a teacher, meaning we're going to understand Hashem better. We're going to see Hashem more. And as he explained, is that in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, they saw Hashem. Nowadays we don't see Hashem at all. And the times of the Beis Hamikdash, they also understood Hashem a lot better than we understand Hashem now. And he said that the difference is like when somebody's in a dream or somebody is awake. When somebody's awake, so all their faculties are working. All their faculties are working. But when they're sleeping, the first thing that goes is they're seeing, right? That's why when we sleep, the primary thing that happens, our eyes are closed. So the same thing in Galus, we can't see godliness anymore. And at the same time, the understanding that a person has when they're sleeping is only a drop of what they understand when they're awake. And the same thing, our understanding in exile is only a little bit of what we understand when we were awake, when the Beis Hamikdash was here. But we also, he said, prepare for that higher level of seeing Hashem and higher level of understanding Hashem by what we do now in exile. And the question was, how do we prepare for it? If we can't see Hashem, number one, and our understanding of Hashem is so much more limited than it was when the Beis Hamikdash was here, so how do we prepare today by our understanding, which is so limited, and by not seeing Hashem, how do we prepare for that revelation of godliness? And for that, he started saying that we learn this from the neshama coming down into the body. Just like the soul coming down into our bodies. Why does it come down? Even though in heaven it's much higher, it's much greater, it's much closer to Hashem. But our soul comes down into our body. Why? In order to go even higher. Yerida tzorech aliyah. Our soul comes down into our bodies to go even higher in heaven. And he said the same thing is with Galus, exile. we go into exile in order to go even higher than we were before. So he explains like this. This is all based on the going down in the first original going down, which is by the first tzimtzum. So we talked about in past classes, the first tzimtzum, the first contraction of Hashem's light is different than all of the other diminishing of Hashem's light. Because generally speaking, when you diminish, what you're talking about is you take a lot and you make it into a little. You take a lot and you put it before a curtain and you change whatever, you different stages of diminishing the light. But the first tzimtzum wasn't that Hashem just diminished it, he actually removed it. He removed his light and then he brought in a light, a very thin light, a kav, a line of his light. And that was the greatest tzimtzum, which is to first remove it all, make it empty space, and then bring a little bit light into that empty space. But that also was in order to go even higher. The kavan, like you said, the kavanah tzimtzum was also the purpose of the tzimtzum. The purpose of the diminishing light was also for revelation to go even greater. But he said like this, that when it comes to tzimtzum, when it comes to diminishing the light, in that first tzimtzum, it affects two parts. So let's go back to be easier again. I'll share my screen. Whiteboard here. All right, so let's draw right here. You have, we said, Hashem's light filled everything. Then he made this large circle, so to speak, with inside there was none of his light. It was a vacuum, it was empty, and all the infinite light was outside. And then what Hashem did was he took a thin line and he spread it and he brought it into the circle, and that's where he created everything. The spotlight right here. So he said like this, that this tzimtzum changed the light which was outside and changed the light which came through the tzimtzum. The changed light which came outside the tzimtzum, not by changing the light itself, but by making it no longer shine. So the light itself wasn't changed because this is a light which is beyond tzimtzum. But what it did do was it made it no longer shine, made it no longer come out. And then the light which came down into the tzimtzum, he actually changed that light. Beforehand it was infinite, now it's finite until it actually comes down into a vessel where the light becomes like the vessel. And he said the same thing happens with our soul. There's two parts to our soul. There is the part of our soul which never comes down into our bodies. There's a part of my neshama, the part of your neshama, which is right now in heaven and experiencing things in Shemayim. It never came down. Only a part of our neshama comes down into our body. So the tzimtzum affected that part of our neshama, which never came down to our body. It didn't change it itself. It's the same neshama. It never changed it at all. But what it did change was that it no longer shines in our consciousness. We no longer perceive it. And then there's the part of the neshama which comes down into our body. And that part of the neshama comes into our body changes according to the body, where all it understands, sees, and feels is just what is filtered through the body. That's like the light of Hashem, which came down into the tzimtzum, which is changed by the tzimtzum. So the same thing, the two parts of our soul, the part of the soul which is in heaven, which did not get changed, but does not shine anymore. And then the part of our neshama, which comes down into our bodies, which is now changed according to our bodies. And he says the same thing happens in exile. The same thing is in Golus. In exile, you also have these two things. Before, when the Beis Hamikdash was here, we saw godliness. We no longer see godliness anymore. And it doesn't mean that it's too hidden and therefore we don't see it. It was taken away from us. It's like the part of the soul which never came down into the body. Seeing Hashem, we can't do in the time of exile. It was held back when we went into Golus. And even that part of that did come down, which is our understanding of godliness, right? Which came down into exile, right? Which we do understand Hashem. It was limited and changed, and only a little bit of what we understood when we were in the times of Beis Hamikdash. So again, you have that same two things: the seeing of godliness, which does not happen at all in exile, and then the understanding of godliness just gets changed based on being in exile. But then he said like this, that the purpose of the tzimtzum is for the revelation. The whole purpose, the whole kavanah of tzimtzum was only that Hashem should reveal the light afterwards. Get the mimer. All right. That's not working. Hold on a second. Get off. Stop share. Share screen. Now we'll do the mimer. Where is it? Oh, it's the wrong place. Oh, here. Everybody sees the mimer?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So then he says like this. What's the difference between the light which is before the tzimtzum and the light which is after the tzimtzum? So let's make that picture again. Where is it? How do I draw? Oh, there it is. Oh. Okay, so let's make that picture right here. So you have the tzimtzum. You have the light that comes down into the tzimtzum, the kav. So what's the difference between before and between after the tzimtzum? And what he says is like this. Before Hashem diminished his light, godliness was obvious. This is what we ended off, I think, last time. Godliness was obvious. And existence, that was a novelty. Godliness was obvious. When before the tzimtzum, what existed was Hashem. Anything else, that would have been something new. That would have been something different. As opposed to after the tzimtzum, you have the exact opposite. After the tzimtzum, what's obvious is that we exist. What's obvious is that there's me and you. And what's a novelty, what's different is Hashem. Right? We said the story of the chassid who meets his friend, the misnagid. The misnagid asks him, what do you learn when you became a chassid? What changed? And the chassid said that before, when I was not a chassid, I thought about Hashem all day, and now I think about myself all day. So the non-chassid asked him, so why did you learn chassidus? Now you think about yourself all day. What? So the chassid answered that before, when I didn't learn chassidus, I existed. So my whole life I was thinking that if I exist, does Hashem really exist? Does he not really exist? So I was thinking about Hashem all day. But now as a chassid, after learning chassidus, I know that Hashem exists. So now I'm trying to figure out, if Hashem exists, do I really exist? Because if Hashem is obvious, then you have to figure out, so how do we come into the picture? If Hashem is obvious, if Hashem truly exists, then how did we get here? As opposed to if we exist, then how do we? Then how is Hashem in the picture? So if we're obvious, and the question is how is Hashem obvious? It reminds me of another thing that the Alter Rebbe has in Tanya, that one of the ways of loving Hashem, he has different ways of getting oneself to love Hashem. And one of the ways he has is, he says you have to have rachmanis on your soul. You have to have pity on your soul. Right? Think about it a second. What your soul is going through. It used to be in heaven. It used to be connected to Hashem in a way that, it's constantly thinking and experiencing Hashem constantly. And all of a sudden it comes down to our body. Not only comes down to our body, but we're doing things that are not soul-like. We're enjoying the food that we're eating. We're enjoying our sleeping. And the soul is suffering. So he says, you got to think about your soul. Have pity on your soul. Rachmanis on your soul. But I think that perspective, it changes the way we look at ourselves. In other words, every other thing is like I exist. I have to find out how Hashem is in my picture. But what happens when you start pitying your soul? Obvious is that my neshama is there. Now everything else comes into question. It's a whole different way of looking at yourself. We said it, I think, also last time, is Rambam and Alter Rebbe are similar. They both wrote a Sefer Halacha. Rambam wrote Mishnah Torah, and the Alter Rebbe wrote the Shulchan Aruch. As well as Rambam wrote the Guide to the Perplexed, and the Alter Rebbe wrote Shar Yichud Ve'emunah. Guide to the Perplexed is a book on Jewish belief and believing in Hashem. And Shar Yichud Ve'emunah is also a book about belief in Hashem. But there's a big, huge difference between Shar Yichud Ve'emunah, the Alter Rebbe's Tanya, Shar Yichud Ve'emunah, and the Rambam's Guide to the Perplexed. In the Guide to the Perplexed, what's the ground zero? What's the question? The question is, does Hashem exist or not? Is there free choice or not? Do I have a soul or not? That's the questions in the Guide to the Perplexed. But what is the question in Shar Yichud Ve'emunah? Shar Yichud Ve'emunah starts from a whole different place. Shar Yichud Ve'emunah starts from the assumption that Hashem exists, and the question of Shar Yichud Ve'emunah is, do I exist? How real am I? Right? It's a whole different. It's a whole different level. It's a whole different pattern of thinking, because in Shar Yichud Ve'emunah the assumption is Hashem exists. Now you got to figure out how does the world play a part in that? So that's the difference between the oir before the tzimtzum. That's the difference between the light that was before the diminishing of the light, and the light which comes down through the tzimtzum, through the diminishing of the light. The light which is outside over there, Hashem is obvious, and anything else is a novelty, is different. But in existence, once you come down into where we are, into the circle, so over here, what exists is ourselves. That's obvious. And we have to figure out how Hashem exists. Hashem is the ischachos. And he says that's the difference also between prophecy and us, or the times of the Beis Hamikdash and us. When you see Hashem, or when Hashem is speaking to you like a Navi, then you don't just believe in Hashem. You know Hashem exists. Hashem's obvious. Moshe Rabbeinu. For Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem was obvious. He spoke to him on a regular basis. He was able to have strike up a conversation with Hashem whenever he wanted to. For Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem was obvious. For a prophet, Hashem is obvious. And the same thing is in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, Hashem is obvious. It says it's still not the same thing. Because even a prophet that sees Hashem, even a prophet that Hashem speaks to him, it's still not as obvious as the world is. Because the world, everybody sees. The world, everybody experiences. And Hashem, only a prophet. We make a big deal. Ooh, whoa, this guy is the prophet Isaiah. This guy is the prophet this, the prophet that. Why do we make a big deal out of them? Because it's not a regular thing. It's not a normal thing. So to see the physical matter, to see the physical world, that's obvious. But to see Hashem, that's not obvious. To see Hashem is not obvious to everybody. And that's why even a prophet is not at the true level of Hashem is obvious, and the world is bischachos, is a novelty. By him also the world is more obvious than Hashem is. And the only time, the time that Hashem is going to truly be obvious is when Mashiach comes. That's when he concludes. If you have the you see what the pointer is, when Mashiach comes, when then the light of that was before the tzimtzum will shine in this very world, then prophecy will be a natural thing. It will be the obvious thing. You won't have to be somebody special. It'll be in every single one, even in little children. They will all be prophets. The verse says, I will pour my spirit on all flesh, that your children, your sons and your daughters are going to prophesy. And at that time, that's when Hashem is truly going to be obvious. Because then everybody's going to see Hashem. So only when Mashiach comes will we go back to the original state where Hashem is obvious and existence is.
Can I ask a question? Good question.
Yes, sure. I'm waiting for a question.
So I know. So I've always heard. We always learn that but that's say the whole point of the world today is to make a dir b'tachtonim, that we should make it a godly place, for a place that God can dwell. We should make it a more godly place. We have to repair the things that are in the world that are not correct through doing Torah and mitzvahs and all these other things. And the whole fact that so I always get this question like, well, what's the point of God creating the world? Well, one of the answers to that is, well, in order that we should recognize him even though he's not obvious, right? That we should recognize his providence, that he is, that's why we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, to reckon, we're constantly saying that he is one, not just that he's one, but there's nothing else besides him. So once Mashiach comes and once he becomes obvious, like you say, prophecy is no big deal, and everything is clear, and people won't be doing bad because it's clear that what they should be doing, etc., etc. So like, I know we can't know Hashem's mind, but it kind of makes sense that in an imperfect world, us doing the right thing in spite of the fact that everything is stacked against us to do the wrong thing, that would make sense to make a world that way. But like, why? What'll be the point once Mashiach comes? There'll be no challenge. There's nothing to overcome, nothing to work towards.
Very good. So number one, I think the answer would be like this. Number one, you have to understand is that when Mashiach comes, with Hashem being revealed and everything, it's still going to be the physical world that we are in today. And that's why there is still going to be a point, because that is the fulfillment of that dream. The dream is that in the physical world, Hashem should be present. That's exactly what's going to happen. That's what he's saying is our physical flesh is going to see godliness, because that is the ultimate purpose. That the lowest of the low should go back to the very high of the high. That's what we mean by Dir B'Tachtonim. We're making a home for Hashem. We mean that in the very physical matter, in the very physical lowest thing, we'll be able to experience and be at the greatest heights that was before the Tzimtzum even happened. That's part number one. A second part to it is, that's also why it says, the Rebbe says in my Marim of Achar Pesach, it's coming up, that that's why we're going to mention going out of Egypt even Mashiach comes. Because the one thing we'll be lacking is what you just said. The one thing we'll be lacking is iskafia, that's the way it says in my Marim. Iskafia means is subduing evil. Ishapcha we'll have transformed evil to light. But to be able to subdue evil, we won't have anymore. So that's why it says that we said in the Haggadah that we'll mention Mashiach's coming, even Mashiach comes. I'm sorry, the going out of Egypt, even Mashiach comes. Why? Because we'll have to remember that Maila, that greatness of being able to subdue evil. Yes, there is going to be an element there that we're going to have to remember it, as opposed to it's not going to be as prevalent. So we're going to have a remembrance for it, because we're not going to be able to do it as much when Mashiach comes. But I think there's another part to it, and that is that even Mashiach comes, we will constantly be upgrading this Dir B'Tachtonim. If I understand it correctly, is when Mashiach comes, we'll constantly be upgrading it. In other words, every single day will be, the day before is going to have already its limitations. Like the Rebbe says a lot, right? That every day we have to grow, every day we have to go out of Egypt, because the day before is, whatever you've accomplished yesterday is already your Egypt for today. It's already your box. So for today, what you did yesterday is not enough anymore. You have to get out of your box today. You have to leave Egypt today. So what I'm understanding is when Mashiach comes, the same thing's going to be happening. Is that the limitations of the previous, that whatever accomplished the previous day in the times of Mashiach is already going to be limited. So we're going to have to go out of Egypt again in the spiritual sense. We have to bring Mashiach again, bring a Dir B'Tachtonim in a deeper sense, because we can't go with what we did the day before, because it's no longer.
I mean, I guess we could go with like in increasing levels of godly revelation as we go along. In other words, I guess so maybe the answer to that is that there's no top of the mountain. We get to the top of the mountain, but then we keep going to higher and higher points of the top, I guess.
Correct. And the reason for that is because God is infinite.
Right.
So there is no end. It's not like there is an end point. Hashem is infinite. Infinite means that you can keep on going. And that's something we can't understand. That was a policy.
It's not going to be a light switch. It's going to, so to speak, it might be more like a dimmer switch. It starts getting lighter and lighter and lighter, but it just keeps going infinitely brighter and brighter.
Yeah. So it seems like there's be some major turning point, which is before Mashiach coming and after Mashiach coming. But once that happens, that you're right, and then there'll be some leaps. Like for instance, it says that Tchias HaMesim, resurrection of the dead, might not be right away. That might come as a later stage. So that'll be a leap. So different levels and different things. But it also says that once Tchias HaMesim happens, we have no clue what's going to happen there. Well, all we talk about is the days of Mashiach. Well, Tchias HaMesim says, "Ayin Leirasa." Nobody's seen that one yet. None of the prophets, nobody knows at all what's going to be what that happens then. So yeah, it's never going to end. We're going to constantly be going higher. If you want to have it in davening, in davening, when my teacher, Rabbi Asher Farkas, she said in Haidu, right? So look it up right now quickly. In Haidu over there, right, we finished the first part of it. Chazan says out loud. Whoever remembers,
What, right at the beginning?
Right at the beginning.
No,
No. Before that. But by the first part where the Chazan answers.
Oh, but
do not sing to the Lord, all the earth, proclaim his deliverance from day to day. That's right. Shir Hashem Shechadash. I just did it in the Hebrew. Let's do it in Hebrew. Shir Hashem Kol Aretz Basru Miyem Al Yem Yeshuasei. That's on the first page, I think it is. First page. Right? So Shir Hashem Kol Aretz. Sing to Hashem. Doing it in English here. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Proclaim his deliverance from day to day. The way my teacher told me, what does this mean? Proclaim his deliverance from day to day is that every single, because talk about Mashiach comes. If you know how the Haidu works, the first half up until that point is talking about our past. And Shirlei Kalad is talking about Mashiach comes. Then Mashiach comes, we will sing to Hashem every day. We'll proclaim his deliverance from day to day. What does that mean? That every day there's going to be a deliverance from the day before. When Mashiach comes, every day is going to be so much greater than the day before. It's as if we went out of Golus again since the day before. So we're going to proclaim his deliverance every day because every day is going to be a deliverance from the day before. And that's what means that every day is not only going to be greater, it's going to be a leap as if from exile to Geula again, as if we went out of Golus and to Geula again, because every day is going to be a deliverance. And that's going to happen. Mashiach comes, we're going to sing a song of his deliverance every single day for the deliverance of that day from the day before. Okay. We're holding Zion right here. Now, after we explained the difference between before the Tzimtzum and after the Tzimtzum, that before the Tzimtzum, Hashem is obvious and creation, existence is the novelty, as opposed to after the Tzimtzum, creation, existence is the obvious and Hashem is the novelty. The same thing is as well with the sing of godliness in the times of the Beis Hamikdash. The fact that every single Jew was able to see, or every single one was able to see godliness in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, it's because in the Beis Hamikdash it shined godliness before the Tzimtzum. And because the godliness before the Tzimtzum shined in the Beis Hamikdash, that's why everybody was able to see it. Adults, children, great, simple, everybody was able to see godliness. Why? Because in the Beis Hamikdash, Hashem's infinite light, which is before the Tzimtzum, shined there. Ella, but but even the revelation in the Beis Hamikdash wasn't like a fully natural thing. Why? Because the revelation was only in the Beis Hamikdash. If it was fully natural, it should have been everywhere in any place. But the revelation that was in the Beis Hamikdash was limited to the Beis Hamikdash, to that time, that place. That being that the revelation was only in the Beis Hamikdash, and it was not like the seeing of physical things, which you don't need a specific place for it. How to move on? That shows that why were you able to see godliness in the Beis Hamikdash was because of a reason. Mitzad Giludei Beis Hamikdash, because of the light of infinite light that was in the Beis Hamikdash. Mashenkin Las Lavi. On the other hand, when Mashiach comes, when Mashiach comes, seeing godliness will be like a natural thing, literally like natural, like mamish, literally. In other words, like this. If I have to say why this person is a prophet, that means it's not natural. I don't have to say why a person sees physical matter. You need an explanation of why a person does not see physical matter. But I don't have to explain to you why somebody sees or hears physical matter. That's the obvious, because that's the natural thing. The natural thing is to see, to hear, and to feel. So if you're telling me that in the Beis Hamikdash that only in the Beis Hamikdash they saw godliness, I have to give you a reason why in the Beis Hamikdash and not anywhere else. The reason is because Hashem's infinite light was shining in the Beis Hamikdash, so even the physical was able to see godliness there. But it's still a reason. it's still a reason because it's not everywhere. Hashem's light didn't shine everywhere. As opposed to when Mashiach comes, then Hashem's light is going to be everywhere. As it says, V'ro kol basar gamer, that all flesh, when Mashiach comes, all flesh will see him. That the physical matter of the eye will be able to see godliness. When the verse says, V'ro kol basar, that the flesh will see, it means that the very physical eye, the very flesh of the physical eye will be able to see. Which is something fascinating. What it's basically saying is that even though today our bodies and our eyes only filter through a very limited amount of what we can see, when Mashiach comes, seeing godliness will be so natural that your physical eye will see it. Not because of any miracle, not because your physical eye is going to change, but the tchunes, the very natural components, however you say it in scientific terms, of your eye will be able to see godliness. That's how much. That's what Mashiach is going to do. The dir v'tachtonim you mentioned before, Chaim. The dir v'tachtonim, the home that we make for Hashem is going to be in such a way that our physical nature, the way we are today, our physical bodies today, will be able to comprehend, to see, and to experience godliness, just like we're able to see physical matter. It kind of reminds me of what the Rambam says, that according to the Rambam, there doesn't have to be a difference between this world and Mashiach. There doesn't have to be, it's going to be, the world is going to go as is, right? The world's going to be as is. There's not going to be any, there doesn't have to be any miracles or any, the world will be as is. And I think it's part of the Dir B'Tachtonim is, if there has to be some miraculous change of nature in order for Mashiach to come, then there's no Dir B'Tachtonim. Then Hashem hasn't come into the physical world. The fact that we're going to be like we are today, with our brains like we are today, our eyes like we are today, ears like we are today, that's all going to work the same way. The difference will be is that when Mashiach comes, our eyes will be able to see it, our ears will be able to hear it, our minds will be able to perceive it. Why? Because it's going to be obvious even to the physical nature, the way we are, our physical makeup will be able to understand these things. The very physical makeup of our eyes will be able to see godliness. Right here, he quotes the mimer in this note here, that just like just like today, the fact that our eye sees physical matter is a natural thing. The same thing when Mashiach comes, the seeing of Hashem and the experiencing of Hashem will be like a natural thing. And over here he adds why it says V'ro kol basar, that all the flesh will see. It's not just that we will see it, but it'll be because of the flesh. The flesh itself will be able to see godliness because of the components of the flesh. I'm thinking about it. It'd be interesting to have to figure this out, or at least to have a conversation of how in today's world today we can actually see this starting to play out. It's like, for instance, like with certain tools today, we're able to see things that people were never able to see in the past. I mean, we kind of know how this coronavirus looks. I'm assuming because we have, it's way less than the natural eye can see, but we have instruments, we have microscopes and everything that can pick up things that in the past you weren't able to see. We have, I don't know, any doctors here, EKGs and different, sonograms. We're able to start X-rays. In today's day and age, our eyes are starting to be able to see things through different instruments, which in the past we were never able to see. So it's a fascinating thing that in today's day, we already have kind of a hint to this already. We already have physical phenomena today that we're able to see that they weren't able to see in the past. Now, yes, it's through different tools, and I'm assuming that this is not going to be through tools. It's going to be actually our physical makeup. But what I'm just saying is that in our world today, we can already see something like this happening. It's no longer so far-fetched that we should be able to start perceiving things that we have never perceived before. We're able to. Germs and bacteria and all these things, viruses, these are things which are so tiny. And today we could actually see them.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's still so many things that we can't, and that people just accept as no one questions that that certain things exist, right? Protons, neutrons,
Correct.
right? But we actually can't see them. We can see that, I don't know, the outer reaches of the universe, whatever, even light. I mean, you could see light, but you can't see light rays.
Right. But my point is that we're starting to, we're getting there. I'm not saying we're there yet because, Mashiach's not here yet. But
Right.
we do see a concept today of being able to see phenomena that we weren't able to see in the past.
Yeah, but Hashem gave us a mind to reason with and to learn with, and over time, science has kind of helped us. Well, science is part of what Hashem has given you to learn to advance. Okay, so what we're seeing today, we think is phenomenal compared to what we saw 25 years ago. And 25 years from now, if we're still around, it'll be even what we see today will seem like nothing. I think the way I see all this is we're just just seeing things evolve. Not that we're making it evolve. I think it's being done by a greater power to help us get to a point.
Yeah,
where we're gonna get
Correct.
to. I think as from what I've been trying to learn in the last little while, from what I'm reading and what I'm davening, I'm trying to read what I'm trying to learn what I'm davening, is that maybe the ultimate goal is when we leave this physical earth, where do we go from here? That's where I'm seeing it.
So my point is that we're knowing that this is all part of the plan. All these advanced part of the preparation for Mashiach. If we just open our eyes, look around, we'll see that there's so many different things going on that are pointing in that direction. As in this concept right here, we're starting to be able to see things they weren't able to see before. Why? Because we're getting closer to Mashiach's times, where we'll be able to see things that we've never seen before. But plus also is in Chassidus, the main purpose is actually to be down here. So heaven is a nice place to be. After the soul leaves the earth, it's a nice place to be. But it's not going to be anything near, anything close to when Mashiach comes down here in this world. And that's really what he's saying here, is that what's going to happen ultimately is, where is Hashem's infinite light going to be revealed is in this world, not in heaven.
Right.
Because that's the ultimate purpose of creation. But what my point is that we're working our way towards there. And if we look around what's going on in the physical world, we can actually see we're progressing in that direction. There's so many things that are happening that we were promised. Mashiach comes, that we see we're heading in that direction. One more example, just quickly, just as another. It says that when Mashiach comes, we'll be going to Israel, to Yerushalayim, every Rosh Chodesh and every Shabbos. Now, who 100 years ago or 200 years ago would have believed that could be possible? Today, people are doing it. People are living. I have a friend, I don't know if he does it now, but he was working in Israel and he lived in Argentina. He would go to Israel for the week and we come back to the opposite. You come back to Argentina for Shabbos, right? That's what he would be doing. A regular thing, on a regular basis. We do it today. It's not like it's some prophetic vision anymore. That's my point, is that so many things are happening in our world today. We've been promised is going to happen, and we actually see these promises coming to fruition. And this is one more idea, is that we can see things today that we weren't able to see in the past. Why? Because we're coming to closer to the time of Mashiach. We'll be open, our eyes, our physical eyes will be opened in ways that we were never able to see before. And it did happen to a limited extent. It happened at times in the Beis Hamikdash, because when we were in the Beis Hamikdash, we saw godliness. But like we said before, that was only in a certain time, in a certain place. When Mashiach comes, it will be natural. Why? Because the infinite light of Hashem won't just shine in one place in the Beis Hamikdash as it did in the times of the Beis Hamikdash. It will shine everywhere. It will be everywhere in this world. All right, we'll continue a little bit more. But we have to understand. The Rebbe asks a very simple question here. The revelation of Hashem's infinite light and the existence of the world is a contradiction. It's two opposites. Having a revelation of the infinite light and having worlds exist is not possible. What's the proof for that? When the infinite light filled that empty space, right? When Hashem's infinite light filled the space before he removed his light, it was impossible to create the worlds. And in order to create the worlds, Hashem had to remove his light. Why did Hashem make this tzimtzum of removing his light? Because he couldn't have worlds exist with his light shining everywhere. So he had to remove his light, make an empty space, and in that space, he created worlds. So that means that that Hashem's infinite light contradicts the existence of worlds. You can't have both at the same time. Or you have his infinite light. You can't have both. Saying in this mimer is that when Mashiach comes, we're going to have both. Have his infinite light everywhere, and also those are going to exist. How do you have both of these things? That the creation of worlds is specifically if the light is removed, the opposite revelation. So the question is, how is it possible that the world's existing, and how much more the flies the way it is in its existence, Hashem will be revealed. How is it possible? Let's do this again. Hashem had to remove his light because there could not exist worlds when his infinite light was everywhere. So he had to remove his light. Then he made this little line and he created the worlds in this empty space. So what are we saying now? He's going to bring back the infinite light. What's going to happen when he brings back the infinite light? When he brings back that infinite light, we should all disappear because we can't exist in his infinite light. And if we could, then why didn't he just create us? Saying is that our existence contradicts the infinite light. You can't have both at the same time. So how are we saying that when Mashiach comes? How are we saying that when Mashiach comes, there will be the infinite light and will also exist? That we'll exist in our existence. We won't change. We'll still be our physical matter, as physical everything. And yet, the infinite light will be revealed. We should just disappear. We should become ois metzias in Yiddish. We become no longer exist anymore. And the reason is like this. The Rebbe explains how is it that we will exist even though the infinite light will be shining. And he says, being that the whole purpose of the tzimtzum is in order to reveal the light, that meaning that this revelation should also be where the worlds exist as in war. Right? We gave the example of the teacher teaching the child that they're able to grow up one day to understand just as well as the teacher and even better. Is that the reason that Hashem concealed his light is in order that we should not only be able to receive it, but also to go back to the original light, and we should be able to perceive the original infinite light. So it turns out that the inner purpose of the tzimtzum, what is the essence of the tzimtzum? What's the essence of the diminishing of the light, and automatically also the world from the diminishing of the light essentially does not contradict the revelation. On the opposite is this is the purpose of the revelation. This is the inner purpose of the tzimtzum. In order to bring out the inner thing of the tzimtzums, and accomplish that is through what we do in exile. So what the Rebbe is basically saying here is like this: being that really the whole purpose of the tzimtzum, the whole purpose of the diminishing of the light, is in order to bring that the original light should be revealed to us. That means that all we have to do is reveal the inner part of that, the per tzimtzum, and then we can live with the tzimtzum. Essentially, that's what it's all for. The whole purpose of the tzimtzum is that we should have that revelation of the light. And based on this, he's now going to explain what the answer the question asked originally. How come through our preparation at the time of exile, time of Galos, we will bring to a better understanding of Hashem and a better seeing of Hashem if in this day our seeing is non-existent and our understanding of Hashem is a lot more limited than the times of Beis Hamikdash. So he says like this: so Pisa Yuvan, basically, so we'll understand Hashem Meisif Maimer, that which he adds in the Maimer. That going down into exile is in order to go up even higher. With this, he explains, as we said before in chapter 4, how are we going for the revelation of Mashiach comes is through what we do in the time of exile. Is not just that we prepare for the things which are going to be beyond our understanding, beyond our seeing of a godliness. Which we said before, that those are the things that that Mashiach is going to reveal as a king, which is going to be a transcendent revelation of Hashem, a revelation which is beyond our reason, beyond our understanding. And we explained before, and we prepare through serving Hashem in a transcendent way. Ella, rather, even those things that Mashiach comes to be able to understand, which we'll understand in a way which is incredibly greater than now, and be able to see, which we don't even have now. We also prepare in the times of exile, which those things Mashiach is going to reveal as he is a teacher. All of these things will be through what we do today in exile. Why? Why is that when Mashiach comes, our physical flesh will be able to see godliness, as we said before, because of the very physical nature, the physical makeup of the physical flesh, that's through revealing the inner purpose of coming down into exile, that the whole going down is to go up even higher. Because the way to come to this revelation is by revealing the inner point of the tzimtzum, because we said before in this previous paragraph, the reason that when Mashiach comes, we'll be able to see godliness is because the whole tzimtzum was just in order to reveal that to us. And so when we reveal that, when do we do that? When Mashiach comes. In the time of exile. Why? Because you need to say down and up. When you go down, so it knows when you go down, what are you doing? You're revealing what the old symptoms for, and we do in the time of exile. It's a little bit abstract there. That's a couple of paragraphs. But anyway, any questions?
I'm having a hard time trying to figure out when Mashiach comes. You there?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It just seems to me like everybody's waiting for Mashiach to come, and you're going to have this one revelation. Everybody's going to see it all at one time, and away we go. I don't see it that way. I think the revelation is within each person. Am I wrong?
Good. So what the Maimer is pointing out here is like this. Number one is, in a sense, Mashiach is not just a all of a sudden thing. It's not like just like a turning on a switch. Wasn't here and is here. It's right. A gradual thing. Mashiach is a gradual thing. The only thing is that the gradual process of Mashiach has already been started a very, very long time ago. The way I like looking at it is, if you heard of the concept of the tipping point, we have a tipping point where you have somebody made a famous book about it when it comes to products and stuff becoming famous, right? You have like a bell curve or something. Exactly how it works, I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, what you have is that you have a product that gets that gets more widespread, but it's slowly, right? When it hits a certain mass, then it starts growing exponentially, right?
Hmm.
These big companies, right? Amazon, the PCs. So at first it starts slowly. Once it hurts a certain mass, then it starts growing exponentially because the amount of people that know about it and that spread and everything, it grows. Call it the tipping point. So at the tipping point, it looks like nothing really changed, but it's a very big difference, because when you hit that tipping point, things just go like domino effects. Things just start. Mashiach is kind of the same way. It's a point where each of us are doing things. We're bringing the world closer to Mashiach, each in our own way, and slowly but surely we're setting it all up, and we're at that tipping point. When that tipping point happens, things are just going to fall into place very quickly. Why? Because we've already gotten there. With all the buildup that we've done, it just take a short time. So, as an example, okay, so you have, take something negative. This whole coronavirus, right?
Hmm.
It starts slowly with one or two people, but it starts growing very, very fast until the whole world is. If we think about Mashiach, it's going to happen in a similar way, but probably much faster. You have a little bit happening here and there, and even more than that, even when he comes, right? Does it mean that the whole world is going to find out about Mashiach at the exact same moment? No, it's going to come to a certain place. But very quickly, the world is going to find out about this. I mean, especially today, with papers, internet, and everything. Mashiach is going to be very quick in that sense. Once he comes, it's a tipping point. So once he comes, it's gonna happen very quickly. But at the same time, you're right. Mashiach is a very personal thing. Mashiach has to be a very personal thing, because of Mashiach, as we're even saying in this mimer, if there's a part of the world which not have Mashiach, then what you're basically saying is that Mashiach is a novelty. And the whole point is that Mashiach should be the most natural of things. Because if Mashiach is not natural, then what happens is that you didn't make this world a home for Hashem. If the world is not, if not everybody is seeing godliness, then Mashiach yet, because there's a place that he's not there. So even if in the Beis Hamikdash you have the highest revelation of God, so go there and see God, it's not enough, because it's only in one place. That means it hasn't transformed the entire world. So at that point, you're also correct, is that everybody's Mashiach. Mashiach has to come for me. He has to come for you. He has to be one person in the world for them yet. Then it's not natural. And that's why both points are true. But the way it's going to happen is at a certain point, people are going to catch on really quickly, because but we see the phenomenon physical as well. That's the point here. You don't necessarily need a for this. Just like in the world, the way I like giving the example is, one guy in Tunisia, what was it? A merchant to go with the vegetables market. He lights himself on fire and changes the entire Arab world forever. You couldn't have this 300 years ago, but one guy sets himself on fire and change. No, Syria is not the same. Iraq, nothing is the same anymore. Tunisia, Albania, all these places over there. How many of these dictators were overthrown? The whole has changed. Why? Because of one person. Today, that's all that you need nowadays. One little thing happens, and the whole world changes, right? The world changes now in a much different way than it ever did before. Mashiach is going to be basically doing the same thing in the good way and transforming the world in a positive. And you can think about it for a moment. Imagine somebody finally comes along and has the method of being the all pill, whatever that thing will be. It's chassidus, and spread it to the world, making it work for the world. Who's not going to buy into it? Who's not going to buy into it really quickly? And that's the power that we have today, is that we can see these things happening. And that's what Mashiach is going to be a world. He's going to be a world thing, a global thing, because Mashiach has to affect every person in this world. If it doesn't, then he hasn't. Does that make sense?
Yep, but it also makes sense that once Mashiach comes, that people can't just rely on him, like you said before. Every day's got to be a new day. You just can't rely on, oh, he's here now, we can just fall back into the trap that we've had before Mashiach arrived. It's an ongoing everyday thing.
Correct. We're going to be. Yeah, no, we're not. It's not. Life is not necessarily become easier when Mashiach comes. It's going to be easier in the sense in one way. We're not going to struggle with evil. That we won't have to struggle with. When Mashiach comes, evil is going to be eradicated. So it's almost like we said in past classes, like Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe didn't have to struggle with evil, but he still had to struggle with choices. Should I hit the rock? Should I not hit the rock? And the same thing, all our right. Ruvain, when moving the beds. These are tzaddikim, right? They also struggled with choices, but they didn't struggle with evil choices. Not like moral choice. And the same when Mashiach comes is we're still going to have. There's still going to be a fight. There's still going to be but it's not going to be a struggle with evil. So we're not going to work hard. Mashiach's not going to be a vacation. It's going to be a vacation from the Yetzer Hara, but it's not going to be a vacation because we're going to be working hard for Mashiach. We're not going to be taking breaks. We're not going to be, but it's not going to be, like we said, it's not going to be struggling with our inner selves as much as we do today. So in that sense, it's going to be much greater. And it's also be able to enjoy much more. You'll be able to see godliness. So the enjoyment will be much greater. We won't have to struggle with suffering and tragedy. I mean, everything that we're going through today, all that will be gone.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hello, Limelech. Hello, Mayor. Hello, Avichai. We're good? All right, so we'll continue Emirtzah on Tuesday. Tuesday morning is Erev Yontif. I think we should instead of 7 because it's Chol Hamoed. Everybody agree with that?
What time?
8 o'clock Arizona time as opposed to 7 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
We'll push off an hour. Agreed?
Okay. 11. That's 11 o'clock.
I have one
Okay,
consent from. What was that?
That's
good for
I'll
me.
put it down. 11 o'clock is my time. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then
have a
hopefully we'll
good day,
finish the Maimer just in time for Achad Shal Pesach.
Okay.
All
Have a
right.
good day.
Good Moeds.
Bye.
Your major Chol Hamoed trips to no. Good Moed, Mayor. So Avichai, where are you? You're in New York?
No, I'm actually in Los Angeles.
You're in Los Angeles. You're the other direction. Also invited by Yisrael Ben Avram.
Yes, Ken.
How was your Pesach?
Good. It was wonderful.
It's good. What was that?
It was awesome.
It's awesome.
It was
Very
great.
good.
It was really good this year.